This podcast is proudly sponsored by Joro Protein, a Rhode Island plant-based protein supplement company designed for athletes and adventurers. They deliver 25 grams of protein, 5 grams of BCAAs, and 18 essential vitamins and minerals. It's non-GMO, it's gluten-free, it's allergen-free, no artificial flavors, no added sugar or stevia, and it has no additional gums, thickeners, or fillers. Right now, you can get 30% off on this podcast with the code Joro Rhody Strength 2022, and you can find them at joroprotein.com.
This podcast is brought to you by Phase CBD. That's P-H-A-Z-E. They are a local Rhode Island company who makes and manufactures a wide-ranging variety of CBD products that are formulated specifically for athletes. It doesn't matter if you're a CrossFitter, a strongman, bodybuilder, or powerlifter. These products are for you. These products range from tinctures to seltzers to even roll-on applicants. By supporting this business, you're supporting a local Rhode Island business and you're supporting this podcast directly. Please check them out at phasesports.com.
Cool. You guys ready?
Yeah, it sounds great. We can jump right in.
Let's do it. What's going on, guys? Dr. Matt here, host of the Rhody Strength podcast. We got co-host Jeff on today and special guest Alex Jones Duffey of Future Form Nutrition. What's going on, guys?
Not a lot. Thanks for having me. I appreciate the opportunity.
Of course. So I'm going to give you a brief intro, Alex. I know it's your first time being on the podcast. And if I screw anything up, just let me know, and we'll fill in the holes as we go through. But you are the CEO of Future Form Nutrition. Current or previous competitive bodybuilder?
Previous.
Cool.
Maybe future. We'll see.
There we go. And previous collegiate football player?
Yep.
Where did you play?
Air Force Academy.
Very cool. Awesome. And all right, so we're going to get right into some of the rapid fire questions. These I like mostly just for me because I find them interesting, but I hopefully the viewers and listeners also get some interest out of them. So yeah. First one, we got, I'm a big coffee guy, so I always like to know, where's your favorite coffee shop? And basically it could be anywhere, like maybe like hometown, where you're living now, or anywhere in the US.
Yeah, so I mean, I honestly don't have a favorite coffee shop. I prefer coffee in my kitchen, but I will say I'm from Texas, and I don't know if you guys are familiar with H-E-B. It's a grocery store down there, but they have a coffee called Texas Pecan that is like, it's awesome. So I'm all about the Texas Pecan in the comfort of my kitchen.
Nice.
Okay, cool. Shout out H-E-B.
Yeah.
I never heard of it. You heard of it, Jeff?
I know H-E-B. I know the grocery chain, but I haven't heard of that that coffee brand.
Fire.
Yeah, it's by H-E-B. It's actually like cafe all day, and they make their own coffee. But Texas Pecan, it's awesome, man. It's my favorite.
Okay, cool. I'm gonna have to check that out next time in Texas.
For sure, man. For sure.
What's your go-to at home? Like, what do? Do you do the traditional, just like hot drip coffee, or how do you make it?
Keurig.
Hey, there you go.
I'll pour it a little K cup or whatever, and just make it out of that, and then I'll do what is it? The French vanilla. No sugar. So just a little splash of that and I'm good. That's it.
Awesome.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Love it. And you go hot usually?
Yeah. My wife loves the cold iced coffee, but I'm hot coffee drinker all the way.
Nice. Even in Texas?
Even in Texas. I'm born and raised, so I'm used to the heat. It doesn't bother me at all.
Yeah, it's been hot in Rhode Island these past few days, and I'm a hot coffee drinker too. And even this morning I'm like, it's like 90 degrees out. Should I switch to ice? Nah, I got to keep it going.
It's funny to hear y'all too. Like, so I live in Indiana now.
Okay.
And everyone here is like, oh my God, it's going to be a really hot day, really hot summer. And I'm walking outside, it's like 90, 95. I'm like, dude, this is not bad at all.
Bad. Yeah, we're not used to it.
No, not at all.
Next question we got for you is similar. Your favorite breakfast spot?
So again, going back to Texas, Magnolia Pancake House. It's I think it's just a local chain down there, but I mean they have like the best pancakes. I usually get like a big tall stack of like 5 or 6 and just go through them, man. I'll take them down in like 20 minutes.
Oh man,
Magnolia Pancake House all the way.
Pancakes and PRs. Let's go.
Yeah.
Any specific type, like blueberry, chocolate, banana, or just
classic? I've tried blueberry. I've tried like the chocolate chip pancakes. Just classic. Just give me some syrup and I'm good.
You can't beat buttermilk pancakes.
No, not at all. Not at all.
Next question we got for you is kind of a hit or miss. So if you have something off the top of the head, awesome. If not, we can skip it. But celebrity crush. And
Yeah.
we don't discriminate. Could be either gender. If it's a anyone you're crushing on is fine.
So I mean, honestly, I don't have a celebrity crush. I think growing up, I had two. One was Pamela Anderson,
There we
Baywatch,
go.
right? And the other one was I don't remember her actual name, but Topanga from Boy Meets World. Like those are my two
Oh,
celebrity crushes back in the day. You know what I'm talking
that's a
about?
good one. Yeah, that's a good one. Man, that is not one that I would have ever thought of hearing, and that is a good one. I think everybody that watched Boy Meets World had a crush on
Oh
Topanga,
yeah,
so I totally respect that.
yeah, for
That's a great answer.
real.
Next question we got either or and or a place you've traveled recently or any trips that you have planned coming up.
Yeah. So I have two trips coming up. My wife and I, we're going to go to Chicago for just a couple days, get away from the kids, and then we're going to take the kids to Europe. So we're going to see my wife's family in England in October, and then we're going to go see my sister in Paris. So
Wow,
yeah, that should be fun. Should be fun.
that's
Oh,
real cool.
Yeah,
very cool.
I'm dreading the flight over there a little bit because my kids are 2 and 4 years old, so I'm not sure how
Oof.
10, 12 hour flight over there, but I mean we'll find
Yeah.
out. So
Godspeed.
yeah,
Godspeed on that,
Yeah,
for
good
appreciate
sure.
luck.
it.
Good luck.
Yeah.
That'll be
Oh
fun.
man. So wait, I want to kind of jump into that a little bit. So is your wife
Yeah.
from England as well?
Yeah, yeah. So she was
Okay,
born
cool.
and raised in Warrington, England. It's like 30 minutes away from Manchester. She moved to Texas when she was about 15 or so. And my sister and I were raised in Texas. My sister moved to New York. She met her husband in New York. She was a lawyer. He was an economist, and they got married. And he was actually from Paris. So she moved over there with him and his family. And this will be the first time I've actually gone over there to see him. So I'm excited.
That's awesome. That's so exciting.
Yeah, yeah. Never
That's
been to
real cool.
Paris, so I'm really excited to be there.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Next question we got for you is one book that either you've read recently that you liked, and this could be Audible too, or even a podcast, honestly.
Yeah.
One book that's you read recently that you liked, or something that just you read in the past and you really liked, impacted your life, something like that.
So there's only one book that I've ever read, I think, that's like really impacted my life. It's kind of nerdy. It's called The Elegant Universe. It's by Brian Greene. It's basically a book on string theory, so like particle physics, quantum mechanics, things like that. And I read that in college, and it just changed the way that I looked at everything. Like my existence, reality, the universe. I love science, and yeah, that book I think changed the way that I looked at just life in general. Um, Most recently, I read a book called Seven Eves. It's science fiction. It literally took me like a year and a half to read just because I could only read pieces of it. But I mean, it was a really fun book to read. That book was really really good. So if you guys like science fiction, highly recommend it.
Okay, sure, sure. So real quick, kind of going back to it for
Yeah,
those of us that have watched many or listened to many Joe Rogan episodes,
yeah.
and listened to the more scientific community. String theory for those of us like me that are science illiterate. What would you kind of say is so appealing about that, and what would be like the layman's term explanation of string theory for people that wouldn't really even know where to begin?
Yeah, so I think there's two real schools of thought. Yeah, I guess you could say schools of thought around the physical laws of our universe, and you have on a grand scale special relativity and general relativity, which govern the laws of physics at a grand scale, right? So we're talking about like gravity, things like that.
Sure.
And then on a quantum scale or a small scale, you have quantum theory, or particle physics, and the two don't really mix that well. So scientists have been searching for like years for answers to basically join these theories, like a unification theory, if you will. And there's a couple different theories. String theory is just one of those theories that would unite these two schools of thought. And the basis behind string theory, if I can just kind of dull it down, is when you break apart molecules, break apart atoms all the way down to like the subatomic level, it's hypothesized that you'll get to a point where everything is basically the same. And string theory basically says that everything, once you break it down to a small enough particle, becomes a string. And all these particles that we see, these subatomic particles, muons, gluons, quarks, bosons, all those particles are actually, like, I guess you call it strings of energy that just vibrate at different frequencies. So it's all basically strings, they just vibrate differently, and that's the particles that we observe. So
that's fascinating. That might actually be the first time I've had it explained to me. And relatively speaking, understood it. I mean, I can't tell you how many times I've watched YouTube videos on Schrodinger's cat and that whole hypothesis. And just, again, trying to nerd out, trying to understand physics and quantum mechanics and all those things. Like, it's fascinating to me.
I'll profess, man, when I read it, I probably understood at the time. And I've gone back a couple times and like tried to read it again. I understood maybe like half of it. Like, they start getting into things like, and I don't want to go down a rabbit hole, but the standard model, which is the theory that governs like particle physics, it only works in a universe with 10 dimensions, right? So like we live in a universe of 4 dimensions. You have 3 spatial dimensions and you have 1 time dimension or temporal dimension. So like this theory of like where those other 6 dimensions go, it gets into like I think they call them Calabi-Yau spaces, and they're kind of curled up little. I'll stop there.
No,
but it's really, really difficult to grasp. But like if you can just grasp like the general and special relativity part of it, I mean, you can associate it to like everything that you see and interact with on like a day-to-day basis. Like that's the big part that I took away from it.
Sure. No, that's totally fascinating. But not only that, I just love watching Matt's eyes glaze over through that.
Dude, honestly, like,
I'll put you to sleep. So
no, that's interesting. I'm gonna have to go on a YouTube rabbit hole after this, because like I've taken so many science courses like through my schooling, like chemistry, physics, but never anything like that. So I'm gonna have to do some deep diving and try to.
It's cool, man.
Yeah.
It's really cool.
Yeah. I'm typing these out. I didn't catch the name of the second book you said. 7.
Oh, 7 Eves, like Adam and Eve. 7 Eves.
Gotcha. Okay, cool.
Yeah. And I'll give you like very short synopsis on that, right? So it's a really thick book, broken up into like 3 parts. The first part, basically, the premise is that some unknown object collides with the moon, and the moon breaks up into a couple pieces. And basically, all these pieces of the moon are going to keep hitting each other, and scientists figure out that eventually, over the next couple of years, the whole Earth is going to be kind of covered in like moon bits, and all those bits are going to come down because of gravity and destroy the Earth. So the whole first part is like humans getting off of Earth, and then the whole second book is like humans trying to adapt to like life in space, and you get the whole like societal struggles, like these clans kind of start to form, and that's like the whole second book. And then the third book is like 5,000 years later, where humanity has completely progressed past our primitive, quote unquote, primitive forms of being, and now we have like 7 different races that are based off the people that were left alive still in the second book. So it's a great read, man. I seriously hope they make it into like a movie or a series or like a trilogy or a TV series or something someday. Sure. I'd love to see it like actually played out. So,
man, it sounds fascinating.
You can tell I'm a huge nerd. So
no, hey, that's actually one of the things I love about this. As we've gone through this and meeting different people in the health and fitness industry, it's actually kind of a common theme. We're all kind of nerds in our own way. And that's kind of what drives us into this. And not only that, on the rest days, we have a lot of time to kill. So got to find something interesting.
Yeah.
I love it. Hey, and that's the nature of rapid fire. It's almost never rapid, which is totally fine. So we got next question for you is similar, but favorite podcast. And again, this could be something that just you kind of like sit back, turn on, just to kind of like let the time go by, something that's maybe entertaining or something that's educational.
So Radiolab. So I listen to like a lot of NPR. So Radiolab is a good one. Snap Judgment, This American Life. I like podcasts that tell real stories about people and the obstacles that they've overcome. I just like to hear those stories. So yeah, those are probably my top 3.
That's awesome. This American Life is a great podcast.
Yeah, it is, man. It is.
And then we got last rapid fire question for you. Again, same idea. Could be entertaining, educational, even like funny. But favorite Instagram accounts right now?
Yeah. So I mean, I'm trying to stay off of social media because I think it's part of like marketing, right? Like you have to be engaged in social media, right? It's part of just the whole digital experience. But when I'm actually like looking for stuff and reading through content, I have a buddy of mine that his name is Trey Jewett or John Jewett. So he's an IFBB pro. He competes in the 212 class. He has some really great content out. So I like going through his content, and then knees over toes guy. Have you guys
Yep.
seen?
Oh yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Oh
His
yeah.
stuff is great. Like he has really. I've definitely taken some of the stuff that he teaches and put it into practice. I have terrible knees. I'm 6'6", so like I spent like my entire younger years trying to avoid like directly putting pressure and stuff on my knees. And his teachings are kind of completely contradictory to that. It's like if you don't train them, then they're going to end up wearing out when you do train them. So I've been like deliberately trying to increase my joint strength and rebuild my mobility in my knees, my ankles. So he's really good stuff there.
Wow, fascinating.
You're not the first person that has been a huge fan. I'm a fan too of knees over toes guy. That's a common answer on here, and he's big right now, and I think he's really impacting a lot of people, and he's got a lot of great ideas.
A lot of positive impacts.
Yeah, I will throw another one out there, and I don't know how I feel about him yet, but and I'm sure y'all have heard about him, but like Liver King.
Sure.
Oh my God.
Sure.
So yes. I started following him, and like I still don't know what to think, man. Like I know the whole like I don't know if you call it beef, but like with him and Joe Rogan, I have my opinion. I don't think it's natural, but I personally don't care. Like whatever, man. Like if you want to do it, that's cool. But I like some of the stuff that he teaches. He's just entertaining. He's just like a character, like that's really the only reason why I like listening to him. He's just funny. So
sure. Our producer of Game Day RX, shout out Chris, loves Liver King. I mean, huge fan. Can't get enough
Biggest
of him.
Biggest fan.
He's a trip, man. He's a trip.
Do you follow Derek More Plates More Dates? Have you seen that guy?
No,
he's more on YouTube, but he's
pretty interesting.
He's an interesting guy. He's super open to his own steroid usage.
Yeah.
And he's a bodybuilder, and his big stick is that like he'll answer questions on steroids use essentially, just very openly. Nice. And another piece of his like entertainment is like people will send him stuff like, hey, like, do you think Liver King's on steroids? And he'll try to like analyze. And obviously you never know for sure, but he'll kind of throw his 2 cents in there. But
more days, I like that.
He's a really smart guy. He's got no background in any sort of formal education when it comes to like health and fitness, like science. But he's like really well read, and you can tell he's a smart guy. So he's someone to check out too.
I'll check him out.
I've listened to a couple of his episodes of his podcast. He's really well detailed in his research. I mean, for somebody that doesn't have a formal education or a formal background in research, I mean, it was actually pretty impressive.
Nice. Yeah, that's going back to the first guy I mentioned, John Jewett. That's the same kind of content he puts up there, and he actually has a coaching university where it's like I want to say a 6-week program or 12-week program, and he's very open about like his PED use and talks about the best way to cycle, and he's very much build naturally first and then jump on that stuff. And he's really unique in the sense that he's been bodybuilding. Actually, we did the first competition together. So like my first competition was his competition. And before he did that, he was actually a power lifter, and he held a couple different state records in Texas. So I mean, he already had like the strength and the build. And then, he transitioned to bodybuilding, and I mean, talk about discipline. I mean, he dials in like not only like macros, right? Like we all count calories and count macros and all that stuff. I mean, he gets down like the micronutrient level, and I mean, he's got a PhD, he's a registered dietitian. So I mean, he knows stuff. So yeah,
that's fascinating. Yeah, I'm actually going to check him out right after this.
Yeah, he's a really cool guy.
That's awesome.
And then is that JON or JOHN?
JOHN. Yeah.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah. His program is called J3 University. So
okay.
Yeah, he's a really smart guy.
All right, so we're gonna transition slightly into some of your history, Alex. So kind of hitting some bullet points here. Kind of how did you get into competitive athletics? Maybe starting with football, and then maybe that transition into bodybuilding.
Yeah, sure. So, I mean, truth be told, I didn't get into football until like middle school. I would never played before. I never watched football really. Like, catch a game or two here and there. I was always more into basketball. I played like soccer growing up. I was in gymnastics when I was younger. So I did a lot. I did almost every sport except for football. And then, when I hit middle school, the coaches saw me. They're like, "Oh, you're playing football. Like, get your ass out there." I'm like, all right, cool. And it was a good experience. And I did it for all through middle school, all through high school, and then I only did it for a year in college. By that time, like I was kind of done with it, but it was a cool experience. And I think at the time I wasn't really passionate about football. Like I just enjoyed shit out of people. That was it. Like I just enjoyed just getting on the field, getting dirty, and just like roughing it up. I was never super passionate about football. I still don't really watch football. I have friends that are like, "Hey, do you want to, get in our fantasy league?" And I'm like, "No, I'm never going to keep up with my team. Like, I'm not going to watch it. I don't like one, I don't have time, and two, even if I did, I'd probably be watching a movie or something like that." So, but yeah, I did that all through middle school, high school, a little bit in college, and then I transitioned to bodybuilding when I was in my like early to mid 20s. I was working at GNC at the time. That's kind of how I got into supplements. I'd been in the fitness industry for several years. I started personal training when I was 18. So I've always been into fitness, and it was just I turned it on in like 2010. Started training. My first competition was 2012. And my last competition was 2014. So I mean, we can dive into that whole competition history, but that's pretty much the nuts and bolts of it. So yeah.
Man, that's pretty fascinating. So, kind of diving into the GNC aspect, and we've all had that one friend or two that worked at GNC that would like hand out free supplements and whatnot. But what was that experience like being exposed to like all of those different supplements, especially back then, where like I mean, man, I don't know if you remember, but like I remember drinking the protein shakes and just wanting to vomit them out. They were so bad compared to what's available today. Like,
Yeah.
what was that? What aspects of that experience was transformational for you?
So that's really when I started dialing in like the diet, the nutritional part of it. Like I'd always
Sure.
known about it, right? Like I said, I started personal training when I was like 18 or 19, somewhere around there. And I knew about the diet. I would eat clean. I'd count calories, maybe do some macros, and that was it. But I was never super serious about it. When I started working at GNC, and I worked there for about 5 years, I think the biggest thing for me was I was just introduced to people who were just embedded in the industry. When I was growing up, I had friends that were active, but I never really got like that close circle of friends that like we just went and hit the gym all the time, and we were just all about the gym life and being healthy. Like I was really probably one of the only people in my friend group that was like really active and worked out. So when I got into GNC, it was like you're surrounded by it. So not only are you like sitting there working with somebody who is interested in fitness, interested in health, but you have your suppliers that come in, so you get to talk to all the people that actually make the supplements and sell those supplements. You get people that come in, so like bodybuilders would come in. You'd have like triathletes come in, so you get to talk from all these people from different walks of the athletic life, I guess. And that's really when I started to get even more ingrained in like the science, right? I think before that it was more so like I know the boxes to check, if that makes sense. Like I know what to do as a personal trainer. At the same time, I was doing my undergrad in kinesiology, so like I knew the physiological aspect of it. I knew the boxes that I had to check if I wanted to lose weight, if I wanted to gain weight. But it wasn't until I was like fully just surrounded by that community when I really decided, okay, I'm going to hit it hard. I'm going to start really tuning in my diet. I'm going to not only count my macros and my calories, but I'm going to create a longer plan, a 6-month plan to actually, go from point A to point B to point C. That's when it all kind of came together for me, I think.
It's cool. That was real cool.
Yeah.
Is there any one particular supplement that you want to shout out to back in the day?
So yeah, actually, it's the supplement. You can't get it anymore, and it's the supplement that kind of inspired me to create my post workout Endure, and it was called Afterglow. It was by a
Okay.
company called Biorhythm, and it was a post workout drink. It was I think it had 30 grams of carbs, but it was all like cane sugar. 20 grams of protein. It was high in glutamine, high in BCAAs. There was some Cissus quadrangulus in there, like an herb for the joints. And that was like by far like the best tasting post workout I had ever had in my life. Like it was phenomenal. They had a watermelon flavor, a bazooka fruit. And yeah, it was awesome. So like when I was really training back in the day, and I recovering was no longer just I want to feel better the next day. It was like it's a necessity. Like you have to recover, or you're not gonna be able to hit it at 100% tomorrow. Period.
Sure.
Right? That was like my go-to. So
Yeah, no, totally fair. In total humor, I was just fishing to see if you're going to say Jack 3D.
no, so that's funny. So I mean I tried it back in the day, right? And I think there's one ingredient in it, right, that everyone was all about, and it was
Pure
called it was
cocaine.
1,3-dimethylamylamine. And it was like you could find it in other stuff too, right? But like Jack was like the first one where it's like not only do we have this caffeine in it, but we figured out a way around the ephedra ban. Because at the time, that was right around the time when the FDA started cracking down on all these um, I don't know what you would call them, like pro hormones. So like
Okay.
Superdrol, there's a couple other, like Torque was one of them, and then ephedra was, I think a couple years before that. And this
Gotcha.
company was like one of the first ones, if not the first one, to put this compound, 1,3-dimethylamylamine, into their pre-workout. And after that, you saw a bunch of other companies do the same thing, but nobody did it nearly as well as Jack. It was like they created a whole culture, I think, around that single product. So yeah,
Okay.
I was a fan of Jack, but I
Uh,
mean,
Okay, that was a great learning moment for me. I had no idea what it was. I just had
yeah.
assumed that they somehow figured out how to like sneak cocaine into that because
Oh,
Right.
I swear I felt
it
like I could
was
run through a wall when I did take
it
it.
was literally that one ingredient. So other than that, they had I think 200, I think about 200 milligrams of caffeine, maybe 300
Sure,
or so.
sure.
They had creatine monohydrate, so it wasn't like a crealkaline or an HCl or anything like that. It was just monohydrate creatine. It had arginine in it. Back when everyone was still about arginine for nitric oxide production versus now everyone leans towards like L-citrulline. But it was that one ingredient, man. That one ingredient that put you over the
Thank you for the science lesson on that because I truly had no idea.
edge. No
Along
problem.
those same lines, are there any pre-workouts? I know you're not a GNC anymore, but anything on your radar where you're like, this looks like it possibly could get banned, or anything that's just like, I don't know what they're putting in this one.
Um, I don't keep up with the compounds as much
Hmm.
anymore. I think they change. Like what happens basically is you have compounds like that, and basically they'll go in and like just tweak little pieces of it. So they'll add a carbon molecule here, or they'll change this ring to become something else. And I mean that's all it is they're just changing the molecular structure to be acceptable by the governing bodies. So I mean I'm sure there's stuff out there that's close. It's
Hmm.
never gonna be as good as like the original stuff, but it's probably gonna be close. But
Wow, that
I haven't
that is
kept up with it,
fascinating.
so
That's
That
cool.
is definitely fascinating because I mean, like I'll just call it how it is. Like I have no clue when I look at a lot of the ingredients on the supplement list. So yeah, being able to understand that actually really helps a lot when I look at this now.
oh,
Um,
okay.
let's switch gears just slightly, and then we'll take a quick break after that. But what is your unless you guys have anything else to hit on that? Jeff, do you have anything else to add?
I'm
No.
good there.
So Alex, what is your current focus right now? I know you said potentially competition in the future. Are you still training mostly bodybuilding style?
No, 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 not at all. So, my training focus right now, it's I'm 35 now, and when I was competing, I was in like my mid 20s. I've got two kids. I future form is not my full time job. I have a full time job in IT, so like that's what I do. And now my focus is not so much looks, which is like I used to be like that's the only reason why I worked out. Like I didn't care about my actual physical health. I just wanted to look really, really good. And now it's completely shifted where I just want to feel really good, you know, and there's a difference, I think, in that mindset. So, you know, whereas I used to push it so hard every single day because I'm like, oh, I got to get that extra inch here. I got to drop that extra percent of body fat here. Now I'm just like, you know what? I just want to be able to move well. I want to be able to feel well. I want to be able to, you know, keep up with my kids, you know, and really it's just to set a good example for them. I want to be, you know, when they're coming of age to be able to start working out, I still want to be in good enough shape to where they can look at me for inspiration. Like
Sure.
that's the goal that I have in mind. So my style now is, you know, I do a lot more cardio than what I used to do. So I have a rower, you know, I have a garage gym here, which is where I'm at right now. So I have, you
Nice.
know, a rower, a bike. I like to run. I'll do like some kickboxing, and the kind of workouts that I do, I don't go really heavy anymore. For one, my joints can't take it. And for two, it's just I don't need to go heavy, you know. So whereas I used to lift really heavy because I'm trying to gain strength and you know, and you know, going for hypertrophy. Now I'm just going to really maintain the muscle that I have, maybe build a little more here and there, but ultimately it's just to feel good. That's it.
Love it. What would you say? Do you have do you still do like the splits, like push pull split, or do you kind of have like more of like a full body routine that you do, or?
Yeah, so I think now, so I usually will do like one muscle group at a time. So I'll do like one day for chest, and that's it. And then like the next day, I might do like a total body routine. I'll go like a mile or two run. I'll come back, do some abs, do like some balance exercises, and then you know a couple days later, I'll do just back. Same thing after that. Come back, do like a full body routine, and then I'll have one day just for legs. So it's really like those are my three focus areas: is like back, chest, and then legs, and then everything else in between is kind of supplemental. So it's really just about functional movement, right? And kind of going back to knees over toes guy, like it's all about your range of motion. It's all about being able to move and be able to you know, sustain whatever growth, you know, is coming your way, right? Because you can build muscle, but if you don't have you know, a functional core, if you have joints that aren't stable, you're going to end up injuring yourself at one point or another. And I've already gone through enough sports injuries to, you know, to have learned my lesson there, where I take the time now to really incorporate that functional training into my routine so that I don't get injured. So
Cool. Yeah, that sounds like a great way to do it. You're pretty much hitting everything with that. I like it. I like that a lot.
that's when I actually get a chance to work out. Like there are
Yeah.
weeks, I will admit, when it's like, you know, if I can get like one run in, like that's it. Like
Yeah.
it's just like,
Sure.
you know,
It's got to
Hey
get
man,
in where you can.
dad life is a struggle.
it is.
Um, uh, so let's take a quick break, and then when we return, we'll really dive into future form.
Sure, sounds good.
Sound good? All right, sweet deal. We are back.
All right, all right.
All right,
All right.
good break, guys. All right, so next topic we want to get into is future form. So I guess we can start off with I guess what drove you? What's the why? Why did you end up creating the brand itself?
Yeah. So I'm gonna try not to give you like a long-winded answer, and I wish it was more interesting. I think the truth of it is that, you know, I started building the company about a year ago, right? So it was about a year and a half or so into the pandemic. I think the chief reason why I wanted to just start a company, I'll start there, and we'll kind of shift into the brand, right? Why I want to start a supplement company is because, you know, I mentioned earlier that I work in IT now, right? So I was personal trainer for, you know, 10 years. So I did training in commercial environments, private, you know, I had my own private personal training business. And then I eventually went to a corporate place and, you know, trained there. And then I got out of it in 2017. And I missed it. I missed being around those people. And I swear, like, I've worked in a couple different organizations since then, and I have never been part of like a community or felt like the same camaraderie that I did when I was in the fitness industry. So I think that's like the first thing that just drew me back, because I was like, I want to get back into that community. I like being in that industry. And starting a supplement company was something that I've always wanted to do. You know, I started an in-home personal training business, many years ago. I had a fitness website called Texas Fit Life back in the day. And I always wanted to start the company, but I never had like the capital or the time. That was another thing. I never had the time as well. So I started Future Form because it was just the point where I was like, you know what, if I don't do it, like I'm just never gonna do it. Like I just want to just do it. And it was, the timing I think was right because, I had a little bit more free time. We're coming out of the pandemic there. And I was at the point where it's funny, I mentioned it earlier, but I started training again much harder than I had been, and at the early stages of the pandemic. And I actually went out and looked for Afterglow, that product that I was mentioning earlier. And I was like, oh, cool, like I'm starting to get serious about it again. Like I need to recover, otherwise I'm not going to do this tomorrow. And I couldn't find it. And I looked around for something like it, and I couldn't find anything that was remotely like it. So that was like the first thing where I was like, hey, I want to get back in the industry. I can't find like this product. And like my wife about it, and she was like, do it, just do it. So that was really like the only impetus to me creating Future Form. Is I wanted to build something. I saw a need, something that I thought was a really, really great product that you couldn't find anymore. And I just went after it, and that was it. And about a year or so later, we went live, which was like this March, and it's been great. I mean, I'm here talking to you guys, so I've obviously been able to like get back in the community and start getting surrounded with people that are of the same mindset again. So I'm really glad that worked out. And I mean, honestly, it's just like the best feeling to create something and have somebody buy it. One, that's great too, but have them use it and be like, man, this stuff's awesome. Like it's just a really, really cool feeling. So that was the whole reason why I got back into the industry. As far as the brand goes, Future Form, I will say when I was trying to come up with company names, I struggled so much. And ultimately, the name Future Form came from just like a mindset that I had, that I adopted when I was competing in bodybuilding. And again, I'm going to try not to be long-winded or nerd out here, but there's a theory called many worlds theory. And basically, I see Matt shaking your head. I don't know if you've heard of it before, but
no, but I like it. It circles back to what we were talking about earlier.
It does, man. I told you I'm a huge nerd. So the many worlds theory basically implies that whenever you make a choice or like a decision, ask this girl out or don't ask her out, go to college, go to trade school. What in fact happens is both outcomes happen. So you in fact do both things, and they split off into different realities, right? So the mindset that I used to have when I was bodybuilding was that I've already won the competition. It's done. I know it's possible because I know that I have the ability to make all of the right choices. And inevitably, those choices will lead me down a path to where I've created the body that will win this competition. So in my mind, what it did is it removed the doubt, right? I think that's like one of the things that keeps people from starting something, or kind of just brings more challenges along the way, is, well, I could put in all this work and it may not work out. It may not pan out. I may still not win. I may get crushed by my opponents, right? So in my mind, there was no doubt. I've already won. Like the body that needs to be present to be able to win the title, it's already created. All I have to do is make the right choices, and eventually it will lead to the Future Form that will win the title. And that was the mindset, and that's why I called the company Future Form, because it's not about the present. And what I do right now in the gym, it's not going to matter tomorrow. I'm going to be sore tomorrow, but ultimately it's about building the Future Form, and it could look any number of different ways. You could build your Future Form to be a bodybuilder, or you could build it to excel at CrossFit, or you could build it to, I don't know, be a world champion kickboxer. It doesn't matter. The fact is that you can do it. It's already been done, right? It's just a matter of making those right choices to ensure that that form gets created. So that's kind of where I came up with the brand name. And again, not to nerd out, but that was the mindset I used to use.
I love it.
So
I love it. I think it's absolutely fascinating, and that's a really cool way to look at it too.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, that's unreal to be able to basically you flip the switch in your mind of like, okay, I know I can do this. And
Yeah,
it's not even that you're like just saying that, it's like you actually believe it, which is huge. Like
it's
all
already
the
done.
actions will follow. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that goes back to like the science part and why I had such an interest in it at the time is because you can. I think for me, bodybuilding is like 98% mental. I think 2% physical. Like that's the truth, right? And
Sure.
I think for me, just bringing like that aspect of truth to it, right? Because like when I read things like The Elegant Universe or like listen to like Neil deGrasse Tyson. I mean, there's science and experiments and like what the scientific theory. These things have been tested. It's not just a theory anymore or a like mindset that somebody made up to put on Instagram meme. It's like the culmination of hundreds and hundreds of years of scientific research. So it was a lot easier for me to believe this theory of many worlds when it had a scientific premise to it. And when I used to compete, that was the mindset that got me to the finish line, right? Like I did it 3 times, and I placed top three twice. And I mean, I think the difference in the times that I placed and the times that I didn't place was like the mindset, 100% the mindset.
And that's awesome. I mean, that definitely from the CrossFit field, that's going to speak to, almost every single one of your clients, because that is the world of CrossFit, is the choice you make, the choice you don't make, and making sure that you execute. So that's huge.
That's right.
Yeah, I love that. We'll shift gears just slightly onto the next point, but that was fantastic. So with future form, just want to know like what are some of your goals, maybe your nutritional goals, like where do you want to kind of like set yourself apart, and maybe just business goals in the future?
Yeah. Um, So I think from like a nutritional standpoint, I don't necessarily. That's kind of a hard question to answer. Like nutritional goals, right? I think one, we have a really good product or a couple really good products, but I want to continue to expand that, and I want our products to be tested and proven by athletes, right? That's really the whole line that was developed is not necessarily for I want to say like Joe Schmo, right? Like there are certain products I think that you can take and they may give you some benefit, they may not. And if you're not a dedicated athlete, you can take it and still see some benefit. Like this is not for that. This is for athletes, right? So I want my products to be like the pinnacle of athletic performance. And that's really what I designed Endure to be is something that is like truly like the best on the market, which I true to form believe. So as far as like nutritional goals, I want to keep creating products and keep I may even tweak the product, based on lessons learned and customer feedback over the years to come. But I just want our products to continue to get better, and I want our products to fuel like the best athletes in the world. Like that's it. That's like the nutritional goal is I want our products to fuel the best athletes in the world. Um, from like a business perspective, as far as what our goals are as a company, one right now, and again, we've only been live for like 5 months, right? So we're pretty young, in our infancy. I want our products to be in brick and mortar retail stores, right? Right now, we're 100% online, 100% e-commerce, but I want us to be found in retail stores and be recognizable. I want people to be able to walk into a GNC or a Total Nutrition or whatever and see the label and say, oh, that's Future Form. Like I know so and so that takes this and says it's a great product, and pick it up and take it and then let them go see how great it is for them. But I also want to start creating, and this is probably like a year or so down the line, but I want us to create more products, better products. Right now, I think we have maybe a dozen SKUs, maybe 15 SKUs or so. We have, our post workout or our inter post workout. We have BCAAs, energy aminos, whey protein. But as we've seen over the past decade, like the industry continues to evolve. New studies come out like every single day. New compounds are created. And I just, I want to continue to be at the forefront of that and help drive what the industry looks like. So, yeah.
Sure, that's fascinating, and definitely as an athlete, I can speak to Endure. I love that. That's a great product. It's been awesome. and being able to use it and also add it to just, the routine of supplements that I take in general. Which to that point, I did have a question about, like, going back and tweaking things. What does your process look like, that you're kind of looking at for tweaking supplementation, and kind of like what works, what doesn't work? Like, how do you go about that? What's your drawing board look like?
Yeah, so I'll use Endure as an example. So like when I was creating Endure, I already had kind of a template in mind. It was based off of that that product that I previously had, and I draw a lot of the formulation from previous research, from previous studies. And there was one paper, and I cannot remember who published it, but basically it was like the 4 R's of exercise recovery, and it was they talk about rest, they talk about hydration, they talk about carbohydrates, and I forget the last one, but that was kind of the driver. So I did a ton of research on that. When I engaged the manufacturer, for our product, I already had an idea. I was like, okay, this is what I wanted to do. It needs to be something that can be used either while you're working out to help push you through the rest of your workout, or something to help you recover. Refueling glycogen stores is a must, so I need to have some form of carbohydrate in there. And I talked to the manufacturer about what kind of carbohydrates they offered, what the industry is using. So it was really a back and forth between me and the manufacturer that I use. They have advisors that work for them, so they took what I had kind of envisioned, and they kind of grounded me in reality and said, okay, this is what the industry is leaning towards. This is what we have. This is what we can get if we don't have the ingredients. So, we'll go and get this, and they really helped guide me towards the end product of it. So again, I think just looking at past research studies is like the main driver. So I don't create anything, or really I don't carry anything that hasn't been researched and studied. Period. And if you go to our website and you go look at the key ingredients, so I've listed basically like research studies of all these ingredients that we base our formulation on. So I think that's number one. And as far as tweaking it goes, it's going to be based on the science. So next year, if they come out and say, hey, we did this new study that says that, I don't know, molecule XYZ has been proven to increase nitric oxide levels 120% more than traditional citrulline, then okay, cool. Like, what other studies you got? And then, that's when we may start tweaking the formula to accommodate for this new research. So I think it's most of the research, but also, and this is more from like I don't know what you would call it, circumstantial evidence, right? That would be athlete feedback. But in order for us to get that athlete feedback, I need a lot more of that feedback. Well, I've been getting a lot of good positive feedback, but I just need more of it. And I need more of it from like elite athletes. So yeah, those two things, man. It's just the customer feedback and the research that continues to happen, and the studies that continue to get published.
This is fantastic. I'm looking on your website right now, and you have the key ingredients listed in pretty much like, I would say, not, I don't know how much layman terms, but like athlete terms. Like an athlete could look at this and say, like, oh, this is what I like. Someone interested in fitness could look at this, and then you also have just literally the sources to PubMed just listed there, which is I've never seen a supplement website do this. This is fantastic.
I mean,
yeah.
Even to that point, and Matt and I kind of joke about this pretty frequently. My fiance is crazy when it comes to the ingredient lists of many products, and it's something that's become even more and more prevalent, across different, Instagram platforms or YouTube platforms, where everybody's talking about the content of different supplements and different foods and this and that, and I mean, obviously, Kraft and all those major companies have become a huge target for people to go after. What has that been like for you? Because that was one of the first things we looked at when we were checking out your protein, and shockingly enough, yours is literally the second protein I've seen my fiance actually approve of in probably the last 3 years. So I'm blown away by this, and I'm talking brands like SFH, Ascent, the commonly known brands in the CrossFit world are just not it. Like, she wouldn't even feed them to her dog. And so, and she's very aggressive in that. And that's, part of it is, I respect her dearly for that, because, she is not willing to cave on that. And so it really meant a lot to me, though, when we got your protein, we were looking at it, and she said, yeah, no, this is good to go. So I'm curious, what's that process look like? Because I mean, obviously, sorting through all of the millions of different ingredients that you could add, all the different, you know, fillers that could be there, all the different flavor profiles, all the different sweeteners. How did you go about that process of really working through that?
Yeah, so I mean, candidly, like whey protein was not it was never intended to be like our staple product. Whey protein is something I think that's expected. Like if you're going to have a supplement company, like you need to carry whey protein, right? So, my thought on that is like, I'm not going to create something or recommend something to anybody that I wouldn't take myself. And, you mentioned a couple things in there like fillers, and I don't want to, I don't want to badmouth other companies, right? But I know there was like we'll just say this. There are specific companies that have red jars and red labels and probably have no idea who I'm talking about, right? But they have a protein that tastes really, really freaking good. And I used to rail on it all the time because I used to have people coming in and and pick it up because it's a really well-known brand and come and say, oh, like it tastes awesome. And hey, I'm not going to argue, it tastes really, really good. But if you go and look on the back of the label and you actually do the math, so there's the kind of two parts of it, right? The first part is you do the math. So you look at like the grams of protein, the grams of carbohydrates, the grams of fat, and then you look at the total net weight of that protein. And you'll see that the protein only makes up like 60% of the actual net weight, which tells me that there's a lot of other shit in there. So that's like the first part. And then the second part is when you go look at the ingredient list, you'll see other things like maltodextrin, guar gum, and again, fillers, as you said, that add to the taste and consistency. So like when creating it, it was really all about like, let's keep it as simple as possible. Like there's a couple criteria that it has to meet, right? Like it has to be, it has to come from a good source, right? So whey isolate, whey and whey protein concentrate. It has to taste good, otherwise you'll never sell it. It has to be filler free. So ours is like 100% natural. Again, I could probably count the number of ingredients on my two hands, right? It's like whey protein. I think there's some fiber extract in there, MCTs. I mean, it's a really, really basic protein, and all the sweeteners are natural. So like stevia leaf, things like that. So it's really just about creating something that's simple but effective that also tastes good.
Absolutely. And for anybody else with a sensitive stomach out there, like I do, it actually did not upset my stomach at all.
Good, good. Yeah, and check out our vegan protein too. Like I'm not a vegan. My sister's a vegan, and I have vegetarian and vegan friends. But our vegan protein is awesome. It's a brown rice and pea protein, and it's loaded with fiber. It's got medium chain triglycerides in it as well. And again, not vegan, but I still love the flavor of it. And again, it's the same concept. Keep it simple, make it taste good, and just keep the fillers out.
It's fantastic.
Yeah, I'm a huge fan of the actual flavor of vegan. I just think it tastes. Some people say it's like, oh, it's too chalky, whatever. But I'm like, I really like that, just the way it tastes.
Yeah, me too. It's like a natural earthy flavor.
Yeah.
I describe it. Yeah.
So I know we kind of mentioned this a little bit already, but what sports are you currently involved in? Maybe some of the affiliates, and what sports would you like to expand to?
Yeah. So like right now, we have two sponsored athletes. One is a CrossFit athlete, and the other is MMA. So again, I try to focus on elite athletes, and I look at our products like our pre-workout and our post-workout as being kind of the benchmark of like where what kind of sports we should get into. Because I think something like whey protein, the vegan protein, I mentioned earlier, like this brand was created for athletes. But those two things, I mean, you can literally take those, and just be your, average Joe, just to get your daily protein intake. So I was really looking at the sports that would benefit most from like the pre and post workout that we make. And those are sports where it's going to be higher intensity, where you're going to have very, very short breaks, very short interval breaks. So you're thinking, again, CrossFit, MMA, even like some triathletes could probably benefit from it as well. But the way that Endura is designed, it's really designed to be able to hit a couple different energy production mechanisms. So you'll see the creatine hydrochloride in there, right? So now you're capitalizing on the ATP CP pathway where I need to generate a lot of energy in a very short amount of time. And I'm not going to be able to do that effectively for very long with just carbohydrates. So we have the creatine in there to help generate that short-term ATP. We have the highly branched cluster dextrin in there to help with the anaerobic glycolysis to actually provide you with breaking down those carbs into ATP to use for your energy. And then we also have things like glycerol and BCAAs so that when you do start reaching that I won't say catabolic state, but when you've gone through like your carbohydrate stores, that's going to help power you through by being able to break down those BCAAs as a form of energy rather than eat away your muscle tissue. So as far as the areas that I want to focus on, it's still just going to be CrossFit, MMA, and maybe a little bit of triathletes. I think that there may be some application in other sports like football. I think the challenge with that is when you get into like those kind of organized sports, there are specific organizations that it becomes a lot more dicey because of more governing bodies in things like NFL. Now, all that to say, we won't have any problems with that, right? We don't have any banned substances in any of our products at all. We send everything over to a third-party testing facility down in Florida before we release anything to the public. So everything's been tested, like it's banned substance free. But it's just trying to get into that market when you're dealing with these governing bodies and trying to get sponsorships for like football players, things like that. It just becomes a little bit more difficult. So yeah, eventually maybe those kinds of sports. But for right now, I mean, I'm happy where we're at. CrossFit, MMA, you guys are great people.
So to that point, for any CrossFitters listening, using Future Form eliminates the need to have that world famous excuse of I had no idea the substance was in this.
That's right. I guarantee you will not pop positive on anything. There's nothing in it that's banned. So you're good.
That has become the most common phrase in CrossFit over the last 3 years. I mean, literally so many teams from the South Africa semifinal this year popped that they were down to the 5th place team trying to get them to go to the games.
Wow.
So the first 4 teams had somebody pop for a banned substance. So, I mean, this has become an issue that's so prevalent in the sport that it's going to get steadily worse. But, the reality is people need brands like this to be able to, keep them from having to worry about that. Because obviously, as an athlete, everybody can always make the argument, hey, you can go get your products third-party tested. But, let's call it what it is. CrossFit's a growing sport. People don't have the kind of money to be able to do that or the time to do that. So, be able to have a brand that you can trust like this, that's huge.
For sure. Yeah, and if you walk into like any supplement store, there's things that they can legally carry, as just a dietary supplement that still may be considered banned substances by like WADA. Right. So it's and they're not going to come out and just tell you like, oh, by the way, this has got a banned substance in it. So just, watch your back. Like it's, it is what it is. So you got to be really careful with what you ingest nowadays.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's actually something I've become a lot more aware of with WADA. I didn't even realize pseudoephedrine is a banned substance with WADA.
Yep. So yeah, don't take any like Sudafed the day before you go to a competition because you can
I was gonna mention that earlier when you were talking about ephedrine because I had a sinus infection maybe like 2 months ago and I ended up taking that and I'm like, wow, I feel like I could run through a wall right now.
Yeah, so there used to be actually what was it called, an ECA stack, and it was ephedra, caffeine, and aspirin, and it was like the 3 things that you can go to Walgreens and get over the counter. Of course, it's banned, but I mean, it doesn't mean I can't just go down to the drugstore and get it. And I mean, all you'd ask for is like Bronchaid or like something else. It's like they're what are they called? Not vasodilators, but bronchodilators. A lot of those things that they use for like people that treat asthma, they're banned
salbutamol.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
So you gotta be careful.
Yeah, makes sense.
That's fascinating.
So we got time for let's go one more question and then we'll do our wrap up. So how about we kind of talked about this already, biggest challenges being in the supplement industry. I don't know if there's anything else you want to kind of touch on. just like roadblocks and barriers that are coming up with this type of injury or
Yeah, man.
industry?
I think there's been two. So this whole thing's been a huge learning experience for me, right? You know, I was in the industry for a very long time. This is my first time, I think, like on this side of it. I think that the two major challenges that we've come up against. The first has been supply chain. That was, and I think it was probably a timing thing, right? But like finding not the ingredients, but like the packaging. Protein bottles were really hard to come by at first. So the supply chain has definitely made it, I think, a little bit more difficult, and it's also made everything more expensive, right? So I think that was the number one thing that you know I found out when I started it is, you know, supply chain issues are definitely going to have an impact on your bottom line, your business, your ability to be able to create inventory. And I think the second thing, and this is probably very well known. If it's not, it should be. But it's just the competition. There are so many companies out there. You know that you know, some that have been around for a very long time, some that are, you know, newer like mine. And I think, you know, when you're looking at you know how to market yourself, how to brand yourself, and really trying to get out there, you know, spending, let's say, $10,000 on digital ads is nothing, because you have companies out there like First Form or like Muscle Farm that'll throw, you know, 100 grand at like an advertising campaign without blinking an eye. So I think that's really why I have tried to grow our brand through like these grassroots relationships and conversations, and really just, you know, trying to grow our network of people that we maintain good relationships with, and hopefully, you know, it'll spread through word of mouth, because like there's no way we can compete with those, you know, larger companies like Muscle Tech or, you know, the ones I named before. But I think that was something where that I was aware of the competition, but I wasn't acutely aware of how much, you know, our business strategy would be affected by, you know, these huge players in the game. And I really had to adjust, you know, how to get the products out there and into the right hands after coming onto the scene and realizing, oh, like there's no way we can compete from a marketing or advertising standpoint. You've got to get in there and build relationships. That's like the number one thing that I've learned through this whole process. It's all about relationships.
Yeah, the hustle is real.
Yep.
Cool. Well said. All right, so we will start our wrap up here. So kind of 3 points that we like to leave off on. Two of them are anything in store for the future coming up that you're excited about, slash anything else you want to plug. I mean, obviously, Future Form is the big plug here. And then our last question, give you a little time to think about it, is the way I describe it is, if you could, this is from Tim Ferriss, by the way, too. I stole it directly from him, but
There's another another good author.
If you could put one quote, mantra, or saying on a billboard. So I don't know what your major highway is in Indiana, right? Indiana,
And I've only lived here a year, so I barely know the major highways. But yeah, I think 69 is like the one that's closest to me. So yeah.
All right. And so basically the way to describe it is, on your billboard, you get to kind of basically put something like a favorite quote, mantra, saying to your community, something maybe to inspire, or just maybe a favorite quote of yours. So, but we'll start off with anything in store for the future, anything coming up that you're excited about.
Yeah, so I mean, we're expanding our sponsorship program. So we're talking to a couple more athletes that I am really excited about working with. And then we're also working on a couple new products. And I don't want to, you know, give anything away yet, but yeah, we are working on a couple products. So in the next probably 2-3 months, you'll see you know, at least 2 more SKUs come up on our site. So you know, keep an eye out for those. Yeah, I think those are the two big things that we're working towards in the near future.
Cool.
As far as what to plug, I will give a shout out to, you know, one of our current sponsored athletes. His name is Joel Marietti, or Yeti, as he's, you know, widely known. He's just been such a great partner to us. You know, he was you know, the second athlete that we've sponsored so far. Just his attitude, the way that he, you know, approaches, you know, just his relationships, and I think that's actually how, you know, Jeff and I were able to get connected, is through Joel.
Yeah.
So you know, I just want to give him a shout out, and just, you know, I really appreciate his partnership and friendship, and you know, look forward to continue working with him for you know, a long time.
It's awesome. He's a tremendous athlete. He's definitely a great person to work with.
Yeah, he's awesome.
Cool.
And then as far as the billboard statement goes, I'm still going to plug future form, and I'm just going to say, like, find your future form. It's out there. All you got to do is make the right choices and find it. That's it.
Love it.
Awesome.
That's perfect. You've dropped some knowledge bombs on us today. I really enjoyed this. Thank you so much, Alex.
Yeah, that was fascinating.
Yeah, it's been a
That
pleasure.
was a fantastic conversation. Thank you so much.
Definitely.
Absolutely. Thank you guys for having me. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Cool. All right. Well, Rhody Strength, we're signing off.